Hey, welcome to High Five Live. Tell me if you guys can see me this way, because my stuff is going the other way. Can you see? I'll just wait till somebody can get on and tell me if I'm the right way on that you can see. I'll just wait till somebody gets on. Okay, so tell me, is my picture good this way? Someone give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I am Karyann Hoopes. I am a member of the team, of the High Five Live team. Thank you. I see that. It's good. Awesome. I am so grateful to be a part of High Five Live and to share these messages and to find guests for you guys to be lifted and inspired by the messages that are given regularly. Tell us where you're tuning in from. And tell me something that may seem little to somebody else, but to you it's a big thing. So just throw it in there. Tell me some of the things that, oh, did I turn it? Did I turn it? Yikes. I got lots of jackets. Oh, yay. Okay, let's see. Can you guys tell me, did it turn or am I still good? Thumbs up. I can't tell. Okay. I am so sorry, you guys. I can't figure out why, so it's not showing. That's okay. So tell me where you are tuning in from if you guys didn't catch. Sorry, it's like technical difficulties here in the beginning. I am so grateful for the little things, for those small things that really are the big things. They are the things that change our life. Those are the things that matter. It's good. Okay. Okay. So, sorry, I don't know what my screen flipped, and so it looks like it's sideways. So I want to read to you guys in 1 Nephi 7:12. We learn that the Lord is able to do all things if we do our part, if we exercise. We have to exercise our faith. And what does that mean, faith? We have to show that we're willing to share the gospel with others and to love others. So I was asked to give a message tonight. And as I kept thinking about this week is Light Your Faith, I just kept thinking about all the people in my life that the little things become these huge things. So I am a convert to the church, and I was with another team member a couple of months ago. I was at his home, Dave Palmer, and we were talking about this, and he didn't know I was a member, a new member, that I was a convert. He thought I was a member my whole life. And he said, you've got to share that. And so I'm not ready to share all of it, but I'm going to share a little piece of it tonight with you guys. I have a friend, her name is Allyson Fellars, and you guys have heard me talk about her on Temple Tuesdays. But the other day I had a conversation with her, and we are in contact all the time. She is truly one of those people in my life that are one of the big people that has made this huge impact in my life. She was my teacher, and we were trying to figure out the timeline because I think all these years I've had my timeline off. But a year after she took me to the San Diego Temple, I joined the church. But I want to back up a little bit and tell you about when I went to the San Diego Temple. She had invited a bunch of students to go to the temple. Now, mind you, this is back in 1993, to go to the open house and to feel the spirit of the open house and of the temple. And so the other day as I was asking her, tell me what your experience, because I remember what it was like for me, but tell me your experience with me going to the temple. And this is what she said. As she started to tell me things, I kept going, what? I don't remember that. What? I don't remember that at all. And what a neat thing for her to remember. And so I've asked her that her and I are going to get together to write some of these things down because her version is so very different than mine. Not in a bad way, but she saw it from an outsider looking in. One of the things that she said to me was that I got I was hyper focused on some of the details in the temple, some of the structural and the design. There's some squares that are placed on top of each other. And over the years, there's been some question as to what that is. Is it a symbol of something? And there's been articles written about it. But take you back to 1993. And I was fixated on these symbols. They were all throughout the temple. And there was something about it that just connected me to Christ. Something that seemed familiar. And her family was heavily involved with my joining the church, because their testimonies and their example to me were incredible. They are a family, the Fellars are a family of faith. And so she tells me this. Her mother, Mary, she is the sweetest woman. And she and I drove down to the San Diego temple. And this is what her mom said to her, was that I peppered her with questions. I had tons and tons of questions. Well, that little thing, her inviting me to go to the temple, ignited this huge thing. This little thing that she did became this huge thing. And her mother remembers me, just out of all the kids, a bunch of these high school kids, asking a bazillion questions. I don't remember that. I remember sitting and talking with her. But I remember when I walked out of the temple, the symbol, just the writing that says "Holiness to the Lord," it struck me. And this, maybe to some people, a small detail of the temple was a huge detail to me. I make it a habit every time I photograph a temple that I photograph those words on that temple. It's really important to me because it reminds me of that day when I felt the Spirit. When we left the temple, I was given a Book of Mormon. Another small thing, somebody may think. I wasn't given the Book of Mormon that day. I was given the Book of Mormon months later. But here's the Book of Mormon. And in it, my friend Allyson wrote her testimony. That little testimony was a huge thing in my life when I needed it many times over. And I'm not going to read it all because it's so sacred to me. But she started it saying, Carrie, and she said, I know that God lives, and I know that he loves you, and he wants you to be happy. Love, Allyson. And at the times where I would forget, this is where I go. And I remember her testimony. I don't remember her writing it. And to hear her the other day tell me the story of how she gave it to me, that we were in her basement, I didn't remember any of those details. She remembered them, because truly the small things are these huge things in my life. I'm going to share a story that I have never shared completely, and I'm still not. It's so touching and so tender to me. But a few years ago, I'm a photographer, and a few years ago, I had a friend who was going through some fertility things, and they got pregnant, and they were pregnant with multiple babies. Well, I had photographed their family, and she immediately said, I would like for you to document this process. Well, over the months, as the months went, she lost a baby, and then she lost another baby. She was pregnant with 7, and she lost 4 of them. She lost 3 of them. She lost 3 initially, and she carried 4 till about 20 weeks, and she went into preterm labor, and she delivered those babies. And I got the phone call if I would come and photograph these babies that had all passed, because they wanted a record of their little bodies and the little short lives that they were here on this earth. And I wasn't sure. I knew that this was a possibility, that I would have to do this. But let me tell you the miraculous part of this story is that same weekend, another family lost their baby. And they called me and said, will you come photograph my baby? Called my husband, and my husband did actually. And I thought, I can't do this. I don't have the strength to photograph these babies. There's no way. And immediately, I was reminded of a time that I was at Time Out for Women with Natalie Norton and Richie Norton. And she was talking about her child that had passed just shortly before that. Gavin had died, and somebody had come and photographed him. And they had pictures of the funeral and all of these things. And that was years before that I had been, and I remembered it at that moment. And so I thought, I wonder, Natalie Norton is a photographer, somebody that I've admired and looked at some of her, the way she does things, and tried to model some of my photography business and the style in which I do things, because she's a light. And I was guided to a lesson that she was sharing to others of how to photograph a funeral. That wasn't my chance. And when I met her, I didn't know that her faith would help me years down the road. So this little thing that she shared that I don't even really remember, but at that moment, I remembered that she had shared that. I watched it on YouTube in the car on my way to Phoenix Children's Hospital, of what to expect, what to do. I did that. I did it. The Spirit was so strong, and my faith was strengthened because of something Natalie had done and shared. I was so overwhelmed and humbled that somebody would be so willing to share what they had done and how they had done it, that would help me professionally, but to bless this family. Well, the very next day I received this call from my friend Elise. And I think it was actually her dad called me and said she would like for you to come photograph the quads. And I immediately broke into tears. I think it was about 4 a.m. And I said to my husband, will you give me a blessing? Because these little babies, they need to be documented. And this is the last thing that their parents will have. And so I prayed. David gave me a blessing, and I prayed, and I went down to the hospital in Phoenix, and I photographed these babies. And it was one of the most spiritual experiences I've ever had. My friend is not of our faith. She believes in God. And she knows she will be returned with these babies again. But I was able to photograph them so that she could remember them on this earth. Because of her faith, this small little thing that I was able to do for her, she has strengthened my faith. And because of Natalie Norton, and because of her talent and her willingness to share her talent with me, I was able to carry on, and their faith strengthened me. Well, fast forward years later, another friend of mine gave me a picture of Christ. This is the picture of Christ. And it is a picture from Liz Lemon Swindle. It's a picture that I've adored forever. Well, fast forward a couple years later, this has been hanging in my home for years. A couple years later, a publisher came and signed me for my temple photography and wanted to sell my temple prints. I happened to be at the office, and who walks in but Liz Lemon Swindle, who paints these pictures of Christ. Her son owns the company. She owns the company, and her husband and her husband and her son. I had no idea. And in my home, her art is the only art that's there besides temples. I love the way she paints Christ. And I had the opportunity a couple of months ago. I work for the company now. I'm the marketing director. And so I sell pictures of Christ. It's the best job there is. And so I was up at our office. It's called Haven Light. I was at our office in American Fork, and I walked in to our warehouse, and there was this gigantic, I don't even know, I want to say 7 feet high picture of Christ. And I swear he was looking right at me. And at that moment, I thought, how am I here? How do I get to be a part of all this goodness? In a world where people don't believe, I get to be here and I get to feel of the love of the Savior that gets to be in people's homes all over the world, in the temples. And so a few weeks ago, I was in the office and I'm talking with Liz. You know, no big deal, just sitting there talking with her. And she's sharing her testimony. She's talking about how she had just visited with President Irene, and the love and the faith that she has for the Savior touched my heart. And so to somebody, it may be this small thing that we hang a picture of Christ in our home. But I was reminded by a friend who loved this picture of Christ that she loved me enough to share this picture so it could hang in my home. I'm so thankful for those that have the faith to share what they have so that it strengthens my faith. My friend Mark Preston, who was one of the missionaries that taught me, sang a song on his mission, and years later, I mean, I loved the song. It was by Hilary Weeks, He Hears Me. And years later, I had the opportunity to meet her. And the faith that song has brought to me, the spirit that has brought in to strengthen my faith over and over, time and time again. It's a little thing, it's a song. But to me, it's a huge song. I remember when he sang it. I remember the way I felt. And those little things help us so that our hearts can grow, that our testimonies can grow. I can say that moments pass. They pass, and people can say things like, thank you for taking a picture, or, you know, thank you for your faith, or whatever it may be, or hand you a Book of Mormon, or hand it to somebody else. And it may seem like it's not a big deal, but it is, because it can change your life. It changed mine. I'm so thankful for this season that we've been able to focus on lighting the world and sharing our light with others so that maybe their faith can be strengthened. Thank you so much for the light that you've shared with us as a team. We have been so edified and uplifted by the comments and the goodness that you share with us, all of our guests. December has just been an incredible month of just goodness. And as we celebrate the new year and ringing that in next year, be mindful of how you can light somebody's faith. It may seem like a small thing to someone, but it's not. It's a huge thing. So stretch your arms out and give them a hug, give them a high five, and help light somebody else's faith. Thank you so much for tuning in.